Okay, so I get to say it one more time. Good morning to you all.
Good morning.
For those who may be blessed to watch the message, we're trying something new here with the virus shield, and I know that my brother-in-law sits down every week and calls up our website and watches the message, and he'll send me a text or call me, and he'll give me critiques or say, wow, that was really something that inspired me. So let's hope that it inspires all of us this morning. The question is the title. The question that I ask of you is, are you the same or are you different? Are you the same as you were before you met Jesus? Or are you different now that you have met Jesus? Our foundation for this comes out of the letter that Paul wrote to the Romans in the 7th chapter, the 15th through the 25th verses, and it kind of gives me the question in my heart: am I the same or am I different? And hopefully the answer for all of us is and will always be, we are different now that we have Jesus in our life. Now, you know that every Sunday there's a choice that I make of what scripture or gospel message that we use as a foundation. And this week there's a consistency, as many times there's a consistency, a correlation between all of the passages, the Old Testament, the Psalms, the Gospel, and the epistles, the letters that are in the Old and New Testament. But there's this connection, this correlation that we have between the Gospel message this week and the epistle, the letter that Paul wrote. And so Matthew tells us that Jesus' words were in condemnation of the attitude of his generation. So that the words that he would say to them, that teach to them, would not be in favor of the way they were living. And no matter what Jesus said, they kind of took the opposite view. And it's probably because he was challenging them and the way they live, their comfortable, secure, and self-centered lives, were ones that were being challenged. The Apostle Paul, in these letters, in his words that he writes in this letter, reminds us of a time when we look in the mirror to see who we are, and as Paul looks in a mirror to see who he was, there's this ongoing battle between who Paul was and who Paul desired to be, who we are and who we desire to be. Now that is kind of to set you up with a very difficult text to read, but probably not so difficult to understand. Romans 7:15 through 25. So here we go. This is Paul speaking. I do not understand what I do. For I want to do, I do not do. But what I hate, I do. And if I do what I do not want to do, I agree that the law is good, and it is. It is no longer I myself who do it, but it is sin living within me. For I know that good itself does not dwell in me, that is, in my sinful nature. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. For I do not do the good I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do. This I keep on doing. Now, if I do what I do not want to do, it is no longer I who do it, but it is sinful living in me that does it. So I find this law at work. Although I want to do good, evil is right there with me. For in my inner being I delight in God's law. But I see another law at work in me, waging war against the law of my mind and making me a prisoner of the law of sin. at work within me. Whatever a wretched man I am, who will rescue me from this body that is subject to death? Thanks be to God who delivers me through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then I, myself, in my mind, am a slave to God's law, but in my sinful nature, a slave to the law of sin. You know, quite often I think that Paul, who wrote a very large portion of the New Testament, of course, he gets carried away, and a little bit like the contemporary songs that we sing. Have you ever noticed that they sing the same verse over and over and over, hoping that you'll get the message? And I think that Paul does the same thing in his writings. I think that he shared with us this feeling of who he is inside and who he desires to be, who's inside his heart, and who he wants to be is different than the life he leads because of the sinful world and the sinful nature that he is. And so there's this combat going on between the good and the bad, the good and the evil that lurks within all of us as we understand who Jesus is to us and how we continue to try to live in a way that pleases God, even though this nature inside us encourages us to do wrong. I wanted to read to you a quote that I found from everybody's favorite St. Francis. So here's the statement that he made. In the final stage of life, what I call the I am who I am goal. You know that your body is not you of itself. Yeah. You have found your soul and been contacted by the Spirit. You do not need to protect your external self, your roles, your money, your status symbols. You do not need to promote them or prove them to anyone. You can even let go of your image of being superior in any way, a holy person, more moral than others, smarter, an advanced or enlightened person in any sense. You know that whatever has happened to you is all God's work, and you have merely been a lucky recipient of those things. You did not do it. It was done to you. You did not waste time admiring yourself. It takes most of our time to admire the work that God has done to you and for you. And as you, St. Francis continued, he wore this patched robe that others would see him and that he would appear to them exactly who he was on the inside, not on the outside, this patchwork robe. Because on the inside, he knew that he was wounded and weak, and he wanted the rest of the people not to admire who he was externally, but who he struggled with internally. And I believe if we are all honest, he faced those same things that we do, a broken self. And it was precisely there in that brokenness that he met, that we meet, the unconditional of all love. You see, God uses everything, especially and even our mistakes. And then St. Augustine, in similar words, in my deepest wound, I found you. I found you, Lord, and it dazzled me. The words of St. Francis, the words of St. Augustine. It makes me understand and think of, in the children's message, as we talked about looking at the fish in the aquarium and people looking at us in our love life with Jesus, how accustomed we have become as human beings to mirrors. We must love them because they're everywhere. In some ways, we want to check our flaws, and that's pretty evident. We check our hair, our teeth, our dress. Well, you get the point. Mirrors are everywhere. We use them to check our external vision of who we are to the world. There is a new product that You may have heard of it, you may have seen, you may even own one. It's called a true mirror. And it allows you to see yourself as others see you. It's not a reflection like a mirror. It's not reversed. It's the same as what it is. So if you hold up your right hand and look in a mirror, it kind of looks like your left hand because it's a mirror image. But with a true mirror, you look at the right hand, it's the right hand. You look at this way, and it's exactly how you look. You know how you take a book and you can hold it up to a mirror and it's backwards? With a true mirror, you can read the book in the mirror because the image is the same as if you were looking at it. To me, it was a little like Paul's words. Very obvious, but very confusing. But the truth is that the true mirror tells us exactly what the world sees, not just a reverse image of who we are. Which made me think of that fairy tale. It was a German fairy tale by the Brothers Grimm. It was written in 1812, and it was famous before Walt Disney ever turned it into a movie or cartoons that he did, and it's been told and retold and revised and so many times that it holds the basic truth of what it started with. And even the 2012 edition that came out by Disney that is called Snow White and the Huntsman, similar in understanding of what we understand to be life. And in all of them, the old, the original, and the revisions to it, even the new one, we all know about the evil queen who took frequently consultations with that magic mirror, and she stands in front of this magic mirror, and you know the words. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Hoping that the mirror will say her name. Well, you know the story. But my point is that there are mirror images everywhere. We have conventional mirrors. We have funhouse mirrors, side mirrors, rear view mirrors, pocket mirrors, visor mirrors. Did you ever think about a visor mirror? And it's there in front of you. You pull it down in your car so that hopefully while you're stopped, women put on makeup. Well, that's a generality. People put on makeup. And you get a chance to see yourself as the way you hope other people see you. You must have a magnifying mirror. You trim the hair in your nose, you pluck eyebrows, whatever you do, but it lets you see bigger what is smaller sometimes. We find mirrors in dress shops and hotel rooms and restaurant bathrooms, and we must like them because we're all attracted to them. Honestly, some of them serve a good purpose, like the rear view mirror on your car, the side mirrors on your car. They're a safety thing, aren't they? If you didn't have those, you might be pulling out in front of somebody. You may not know that there's somebody beside you, just behind you in your blind spot. Mirrors are also nice that you get a last second check before you go in front of people who are important, because you notice that, there's a piece of spaghetti stuck on your collar that you wish you hadn't left there. But in biblical days, it was a little bit different because they had not perfected the art and science of mirrors. They had just kind of a slim, dim reflection. And that's where Paul talks about, now I see in a mirror dimly. Maybe it's the J.B. Phillips version of the modern translation that says it best about this sense of Paul's bewilderment. Yeah. At present, we people are looking at puzzled reflections in a mirror. In other words, the mirror responds to the feelings we have about our inner self, about who we really are. And I had this flash, and I've told you before, I was 10 or 12, I was sitting in Ronnie Woolley's dad's barbershop, and I was reading Sports the Field magazine, and in the classifieds in the back, they said, photograph of Jesus, actual photograph of Jesus, 25 cents, and I couldn't wait. I tore it out and put my quarter in, sent it, and I checked the mail, and finally the envelope came, and I opened it up, and it was just a little card about this big, and it had an aluminum foil mirror. And I'm reminded of what Paul's image of mirrors were in his day. And you could look at it and tell there was something. Couldn't see clearly. Paul saw dimly. But you could see this image. And we're reminded that we are the image of Christ in the world. And as we were talking with the young people about the fish being admired, and are we admired by other people in the world? Or are we giving the image that we are not totally children of God? You may think that we have a problem in our world today with the images that we give off. And we talked about the true mirror, and it is something that will clearly show who we are to the world. Paul, in his time, just didn't have access to that technology, to that imaging that we see so clearly today. And he defines himself, his inner self, that is, as a puzzle. When he looks into the mirror at his image, he sees a puzzle. He says it in his words, I do not understand my own actions, for what I do not want, I do. The things that I hate, I do. It's not one image, but two images of inner self of Paul. One is the person that Paul desires to be, and two is the person that he really is. And the struggle, the puzzle that he has inside of doing what he doesn't want to do, but knowing what he desires to do and be. A Christian understanding of our cultural health prescribes three things as a spiritual tonic. One is faith, one is family, and the third is fun. It's a combination. It's a spiritual tonic for a Christian lifestyle that is healthy and healing. So in faith, Paul realizes that even while he is this picture externally of a very successful life, that his internal life was seriously askew and somehow not quite right. Other people would see him and comment that he was very strong and vital in his life and his lifestyle and the things that he did. However, through faith in Christ, there's this offer of redemption to all. And Paul found the power of sin broken, and a strength that comes to us from the Spirit and God's will, all working together in unity. And that was the first spiritual remedy, faith. And now the second remedy is family. And we were at practice, whenever we're together as a family, in this covenant relationship with others. And it is through the commitment we have to each other and the things that we do together as family that allow us to understand what it means to be covenantal people of God. And finally, we come to the third spiritual tonic, and that is the one called fun. Because you see, the image that Jesus gave of spiritual nature was one of God present with us, of course. But Jesus shared with us that he enjoyed life. He didn't spend his entire time predicting the world's end or bemoaning the hardships of having a ministry. The Spirit of Christ is a celebratory spirit. I'm reminded of the wedding at Cana. They didn't invite Jesus to the wedding at Cana to make the wine. I mean, that happened. I mean, he made wine from the water, and it was great. But that's not why he got the invitation in the mail to go to the wedding. He got the invitation in the mail to go to the wedding with his disciples. It's because it was fun. He enjoyed life. His life was music to other people. He would joke and talk with the best of them. But the gospel text reminds us this week that Jesus came from a pattern of living that would be about food and drink and dancing. I mean, he was a cool guy to be with and to be around. The gospel text tells us those things. And that laughter of friends and the sounds of the flute create this kind of background if we understand who Christ was, who Jesus was in his life and in our life. And one of the reasons we reach out in ministry to others with the music and the style of our worship is because that was the way Jesus was. Not a stick in the mud, but Jesus was someone who loved life, loved people and friends. It's been said that the best things in life are free. There have been songs about that, right? Even the Beatles sang about that. But the freedom has been bought. Faith and family and fun are the markings of a God-breathed, Christ-centered, spirit-healthy life and lifestyle. But we don't have to cash in to obtain that. Jesus did it for us. Amen. All we have to do is accept that free gift of salvation, that redeeming grace of God through Jesus Christ. And we live the life of faith and of family and of fun with the background of the relationships of joy and peace. One last quote. Ralph Waldo Emerson sums up our journey well. When I have discovered who I am free. And so I pose to you the title that you might ponder this week. Are you the same as you were before you met Christ? Or are you different? Is your pre-conversion life different from your post-conversion life? In other words, did Jesus make a difference in your life that you revealed to the world? And all the children say, Amen. Amen.